Hey all, welcome to the WCNC assembly tutorial video. We're going to go ahead and grab ourselves a ratchet set, a wrench set, as well as some silicone, and we're going to get ourselves started on building our machine. There are things that aren't included in this video, but will be included in other content as we go along. But go ahead and get that. I'll wait here until you have that all ready, and then we'll get started on the actual assembly. And we're waiting. So once you've received your package in the mail, you're going to go ahead and remove everything from the package and lay it out on a mock setup on the ground. So we're going to have our 4 legs set out, our 2 sets of mid rails, and all of our side rails. And you're going to set them up one corner at a time. Bolt them in loosely. It is important that you bolt them in loosely so that when you do square and adjust the table later on, it'll be easier to move. It's also much easier to set up when you're doing a loose bolt configuration. The 2 mid leg supports get bolted together, as well as 2 upside down rails in order to support the water pan that is in this version of our 4x8 table. Now we double check and make sure that all of the bolts are in place, everything is in its position, and we get ready to put up the Y-axis beams. Each beam is also put in, like the legs, loosely. Each of the bolts are loose. I want you to take note of that right here. Everything is loose until after you put up the Y-axis beams. We're going to go ahead and showcase. They are extremely loose and super easy to put together at this phase of the operation. Now, setting up the Y-axis rails, the key here is to remember to have the gears facing outwards, and also to ensure that the gear track is at the top of the beam and not on the bottom. If it was flipped over or flipped upside down, the gears won't actually connect with the track and you won't have anything that moves, and that would be unfortunate. Again, we're going to set these up loosely. And once we've finished connecting this in a loose manner, we're going to tighten all of the bolts surrounding the actual frame after we've squared it. And you'll notice here, the bolts here are loose to allow us to move and shift and adjust the table as we're tightening it. And now that a majority of the frame is all set in place, we're going to go ahead and move on to the motors and the brackets, and we're going to go show you exactly how we want you to put those on. You'll notice that when you receive your motors, there's going to be 2 sets of bearings on the front side that need to be removed. They will be loose and therefore much easier to remove, and you just go ahead and slide it over on a portion of the track that doesn't actually have gear track on it. That allows us to easily assemble it and tighten it into place before we tighten it to the actual tracks. So go ahead and remove those bolts and mount it as we've shown you here, and then we're going to reassemble the bearings back into their holes and tighten it against the Y-axis. One important thing to remember, and what you don't see in this particular setup, there are 4 bolts that come in your kit. They're smaller, and they actually go into the Y-axis brackets. We'll be attaching those into the top of that bracket so that we can attach the top gantry after the fact. But make sure you do that before mounting the actual motor bracket. Make sure you put those bolts in before mounting the motor bracket. Otherwise, you won't be able to put those bolts in, and that could present an issue later on. So there are 3 bearings that need to be tightened in this setup. There's the 2 in the front and the 1 that's placed underneath. You're going to need to make sure those are tight against the material in order for us to get a clear contact with our gear track and move effectively. And now there are those 2 bolts per bracket that I told you about earlier. Well, we're going to need to make sure that those were on our brackets because we're going to start to mount the X-axis gantry onto those bolts, 2 per side. They get placed in and bolted together. Alright, now the assembly of the water pan is crucial. We actually put a bead of silicone in between each of the water pans to ensure that no water leaks while you're using the machine. We have in the 4x8 version 16 bolts that have to be tightened together. They are nylon locked in order to ensure absolutely no leaks take place in this water pan, but make sure you put enough silicone to ensure that seal. When it's all said and done, this is how it should look, at least on the X-axis. Our X-axis and our Z-axis are combined. We're going to make sure that all of our bolts on the top are tightened down so that the gear is firmly pressed against the material and allows us to get proper traction when running back and forth on that gear track. Once it's all hooked up, we'll go ahead and hook up the wire arm. And once we're all done with the wire arm, we will go ahead and hook up all of the wires to the computer and the control box. Now make sure you follow your wires carefully and place the correct wires on the correct ports on the control box there. So the X to the X, the Z to the Z, so on and so forth, as well as the torch on and off, the floating head, and the THC if you do have the THC with your model. We also have 2 cables that hook up from the control box to the computer. Without these, nothing will run. So make sure that you plug them in and plug them in correctly, as well as go ahead and place your monitor, your keyboard, and your mouse on your computer so that we're all set to go and get you all fired up. But after all that's said and done, you have your table complete. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us, give us a call. Particularly when it comes to running your table for the first time, we'd love to walk you through that. We'll go ahead and provide you with all of the resources that you need to start making money with your table, making your table profitable, and just using your table correctly. We want to thank you so much for watching this. Again, welcome to WCNC. Glad to have you on board. Have a great day.